Hey guys, I just wanted to pop in real quick before this video starts and let you know about a mini class I have on my Etsy. I'm calling it a mini class because it's a mini class about this mini journal. And so it has some fabric as a binding here and some rainbow stitching, which is really cool. A technique that I think makes a really strong binding, and it's a quick journal to put together. It does have a lot of sewing in it, but I offer some suggestions if you don't have a sewing machine, how you can make one similar. I'll show you how to do everything, the pages, how to get the color on the pages, how to do the binding, how to stitch the binding, how to do the covers and everything, and hopefully we can make it with stuff you already have. It's over on my Etsy. Link is in the description box down below, and also I have 2 bonus videos with this one. And this video is in real time showing you exactly how I do it, and then I also have 2 bonus videos working in our journal, and these are sped up process videos like the ones here on YouTube. So the first one is this guy here, and then the second one is not that guy there, is this guy here. So you'll get access to the video for this and supplies and all that, and also the video for the 2 extra pages. And yeah, so I just wanted to pop in quick. Link below. I would love if you joined me, and thank you guys so much. Back to your regularly scheduled programming. So we're working in a page in our mini junk journal today, and this page is just like regular cardstock, and it does have a layer of gesso on it just to make it a little more sturdy. But I'm going to add some vintage math book pages all over my page, and I'm just ripping them because I like that torn edge look a little bit better than like a cut edge look, but it really doesn't matter that much. I'm going to adhere everything down with some Collage Page matte, and I'm just putting the vintage paper down as like a little background texture, a little bit of interest in the background, but I know I'm going to cover most of it up. So I'm going to put a layer of the glue on top of my page as well, and then I'm going to add some like little pieces so that they like stick out around the edges, because I really like the way it looks when the paper is like layered and scrunched up, and this paper is like super fragile because it's old, so it tears and bends really easily, but I really like the way that looks. So as you can see there, I just ripped the page just from using a paintbrush to glue it. So yeah, that's just what I'm doing, adding little bits and pieces and using my fingers to kind of like bend them and rip them and scrunch them up a little bit. And I'm just concentrating that on the outside edges. So like I said, it'll stick out from my composition or focal, whatever, once everything's all done. Yeah, just adds a little extra something. So then once that's dry, I am going to go over the whole thing with a little bit of the Dina Wakley Media gesso with a palette knife, and for some reason my gesso had some chunks in it. So I was trying to get them out. So I'm just using my palette knife to kind of spread it around, and it's kind of difficult to get like a nice even coat because of all those loose edges, but I have a pointy palette knife, so I'm kind of using that to like kind of get the gesso in there. So as an afterthought, I took this Text and Scribbles stamp set by Dina Wakley and these like paint marks, and I'm stamping into the wet gesso, but it had dried a little bit too much, so I didn't get much texture from that. And next I'm going to go in with some Lindy's Stamp Gang Magical Shakers in Baravian Blue. And I also showed you the Quinacridone Nickel Azo Gold, and I'm going to use that coming up. So I'm just going to sprinkle the magicals around my paper. I'm going to use my finger to kind of like rub it into the surface. And then I'm going to take one of those stamps from the Text and Scribbles set, and I'm going to stamp into that I'm going to spray the stamp with water, and then I'm going to stamp into the magicals, and it's going to activate the magicals just where I stamped with the water. And I'm holding my stamp kind of curved, so I just get those text lines and not the outside circle lines of the stamp. I'm also going to go in with a paintbrush and kind of activate that color a little bit. And then I put my window over top of it and realized that most of the stamping was going to get covered up. So I stamped a little bit more around the outside and then activated a little bit more of that blue, because that blue is going to show through my window once I'm done. And then I'm just going to add a little bit more of the color to make it a little darker of a blue. And I'm also going to add some splatters with my paintbrush. And then I'm going to take some archival ink in French aquamarine and jet black, and I'm going to stamp around. I first did the blue and it was like a little too light, so then I decided to go in with the black so you could see it a little bit better. And I'm just going to, oh, what a surprise, we added some gray in there. Sometimes it's just as much of a surprise to me as it is to you. So that was Shadow Gray, also by Ranger, the archival ink. So now I'm going to add my little window. These are the collage sheets by Dina Wakley. And I'm just going to put some liquid glue on the back of my paper there. I'm trying to be really careful not to like let it touch itself, because that's a disaster when the tissue paper sticks to itself. So I'm going to dry that layer, make sure it's completely dry. And I'm going to take a water-soluble graphite pencil and just make some real sketchy like vines or stems. And then I'm going to make like these 3-leafed flower thingies. So then I'm going to take my golden fluid acrylic in the quinacridone nickel azo gold, and also a little lighter of a orange color there. And I'm just going to use my finger to like fill in those little triangle leafy things I made with my graphite. And I'm using my finger so I could get like real sketchy and blobby looking. That's probably not a good word to describe it. But yeah, so then while the paint is still wet, I'm going to take my Stabilo Marksaw and I'm just going to trace around those leafy things that I made, and then I'm going to draw in some little smaller ones down at the bottom just to fill in. And I'm also going to draw those vines up towards the top to fill in the extra space. And then I'm going to bring it a little bit into my window and then activate that color with a wet paintbrush. And then while that's still wet, I can draw on top of it with the Stabilo and I get a much darker mark. And as I'm using my paintbrush to activate the color, I'm also like letting it dry a little bit, so I get a little variation of the intensity of black. And once I was happy with that, I'm going to dry that mostly because the paint is pretty thick and blobby and I'm not patient enough to let it like completely dry. But I'm going to take my Stabilo, I'm going to dip my Stabilo in water and then draw or trace around those little triangles there. And then some of it got really dark, but some of it didn't. So I'm going to activate it all with a wet paintbrush as well. And then once I was happy with that, I'm going to stick my quote down, and I typed this up on my typewriter. I don't know where I found it. I'm sure I found it on Pinterest. I have a whole Pinterest board of like words and quotes. But it says, "The universe buries strange jewels deep within us all, then stands back to see if we can find them," which I thought was fitting with the window. It's like your soul maybe, and like the flowers floating out of it. I don't know. Yeah, so after my sentiment is stuck down there, I'm going to add a little Stabilo around the paper strips and then activate that with a little bit of a wet paintbrush just to grungy it up and make it so it's not like so stark looking. And that's it for my page. I really like the way this one turned out. I love that blue against the quinacridone gold. And yeah, so I would love it if you join me for my art journal tutorial class on Etsy, link below. I'm super excited about it. I love it so much, and I want you guys to make one too. So yeah, link down below, and thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye bye, guys.